DreAllDay.com.
Now, we are picking up on part 2 of our 2-part mini-series, Are Companies Exploiting Their Workers? Part 1 was yesterday's episode. You can check that very easily. Just go back one episode from when you're listening to this. We're going to pick it up at point number 4, right where we left off yesterday. And the question of point number 4 is, do the workers actually matter? This is often the emotional play, the appeal to emotion dodge that people use when I call them out on the bullshit. And they're saying that companies are exploiting their employees. I usually, if I can come to them with the logic up front and they can see I have the logic, then they'll try to use a red herring and go to a different point that's more emotionally driven. Well, the workers matter, don't they? Don't workers matter? Doesn't it matter when you have workers? If you don't have workers, then there wouldn't be any jobs. And you get people saying things like this. Workers do matter, and workers can be replaced more easily than the owners can be replaced. This is just the reality of the situation. Again, I've had jobs before. I'm a business owner these days, but I've been a worker, and a worker can be replaced more easily than an owner can be replaced. For example, there's a basketball team called the LA Lakers, and for years they were owned by this guy named Dr. Jerry Buss and his family. They have recently sold a big portion of what they own to another group, but Dr. Buss, let's say he owned the Lakers for about 40 years. Now, let's follow this story that I'm going to tell you. Over these 40 years of owning the Los Angeles Lakers, this guy named Dr. Jerry Buss, many of you never heard of this guy, but all of you have heard of the Los Angeles Lakers. You've also heard of some of the workers who worked for the Los Angeles Lakers. I'll mention their names, and you tell me if you ever heard of any of these guys. Magic Johnson, you heard of him? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, most of you have heard of him. Kobe Bryant, almost all of you know who he is. Shaquille O'Neal, you heard of that guy? Okay, all of these guys worked for the Los Angeles Lakers. They drew paychecks from Dr. Jerry Buss and from the Los Angeles Lakers during the time that Dr. Jerry Buss was the owner of the team. Now, during that time, the ownership group was the same entity, Dr. Jerry Buss, just basically him. The players, i.e. the workers, i.e. the product, in the entertainment world, the people are the product. They are much more easily replaceable than the owners, and I just gave you an example. In the 80s, you had Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Then in the late 90s, you got Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal. Kobe Bryant and Shaquille O'Neal are not playing anymore. Magic Johnson and Kareem don't play anymore, but the Lakers still exist. And the owners, they didn't play any basketball. How many shots did they make? This is a reflection of why owners are more valuable than the workers, because the owners can create the jobs. The workers just work at the jobs, and the workers, again, get cycled out more easily than the owners do. That doesn't mean the workers have zero value. Okay, I'm not saying workers have zero value. What I'm saying is there's levels to this shit. That's what I'm saying. There's levels. This is another point that's met with a lot of vitriol when I talk about this online, because people tend to personalize it as if I'm saying that they are not valuable, period. Those are the people who are super emotional, or that they're less valuable than the owner, which they actually are. And people don't like hearing that. But hey, don't be mad at me for reporting reality to you. All right, don't shoot the messenger. A lot of people don't like having this mirror held up to them, but it doesn't mean that the mirror is telling a lie. All right, this is just what it is. How many points did Jerry Buss score when Kobe Bryant was doing his slam dunks? 0. How many times did Jerry Buss grab a rebound? How many assists did he throw? How many sky hooks did he make? None, none, and none. He had to do any of that thing. Any of those things. All he had to do was sit in his press box or in the front row, as he often did, watching the workers who he paid play basketball. They did all the work. He made all the money. Now, how is that possible, and how is that not exploitation, Dre? The reason that is possible is because he put the risk up at the beginning to own the team back when there was no guarantee to owning the team. And even when there was no guarantee to owning the team was going to necessarily make you money. He put that risk up. And because he put the risk up, when it started working, he was able to collect most of the upside. So whatever amount of money Kobe Bryant got paid, or Shaquille O'Neal, or Magic Johnson, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar got paid, Dr. Jerry Buss was able to make a lot more than them, because let's be clear, he was paying their salaries. So whatever your favorite athlete is making, ask yourself who's paying the salary of that athlete and that athlete's teammates. That's the person with the money, the one who's writing the check. They're paying all your favorite athletes. So however much they're making, it makes you think they're somebody. Ask yourself who has enough money to pay them and pay everybody else and still have money left over. And they don't have to do any of the work. They ain't got to do no dunks. They ain't got to make no shots. They don't have to hit any home runs. They don't have to get slammed into the ice. They don't have to, what's other things? They don't have to score any goals. They don't do any of these things. All they got to do is collect. Why? Because they put up the risk. The goal, folks, is to put up the risk, and then you get to participate in the majority of the upside. Now, you got to make sure the upside becomes upside. Upside is possibility. You got to make sure it actually turns out. That's why entrepreneurship is a risk, because there's no guarantee that just because you started doesn't mean it's going to work out. But if and when it does work out, you win big. Mark Cuban, speaking of owners of NBA teams, he still has some ownership of the Dallas Mavericks, but he was a majority owner for a long time. He sold the majority stake, but he still has some ownership. Mark is also known for being on the TV show Shark Tank, where millionaire and billionaire business owners get to invest in businesses. And one thing that Mark Cuban is famous for saying is that you only need to be right one time. And the one time that you're right, you got to be right when you bet big. That one great hand comes around, you bet big, and you're able to take the house, to quote Danny Ocean, played by George Clooney in the movie Ocean's 11. Those of you who saw that movie. I'm not a movie watcher, but if you ask me my favorite movie, that'd probably be the one. You gotta bet big on something that is not guaranteed to win. Then you hedge the hell out of that bet, so you give yourself as much chance for that bet to win as possible. And then, win or if you win, you get a big payout. Now, I made that sound very simple. People are like, well, if it was that simple, or it's not that simple, Dre, why are you making it sound so simple? Well, I'll tell you. It is that simple. The concept is that simple. The hard part is having the intestinal fortitude to take that type of risk that is not guaranteed to win. How many people do you know are willing to take that type of risk? All right, so while you think about that, let's move on to the next point. Point number 5. Today's topic, once again, is, are companies exploiting their employees? This is part 2 of 2. Number 5, to remove the cap on your upside, you must remove your downside. To remove the cap on your upside, you must remove your downside. In other words, you must take risks. Anyone can take the risk to start a business. Anybody can do it. The challenge is you don't know if your risk will pan out. That's the reason why it's a risk, because you don't know if it's going to work. The reason why the people who risk and win get paid big with big rewards is because they were willing to take a big risk. That's the reason why they got a big payout. And this is the reason why you often hear people talk about betting on themselves. You see somebody get some big success in life, either they or the people who are trying to espouse them will say, well, look at this person. They bet on themselves. He bet on himself, and look at all this great success this person has. Well, they're leaving part of the story out. They're telling you the part that sounds good, and they're not telling you the rest of the story. First of all, they didn't tell you how this person bet on something that was not guaranteed to win. Because if it was guaranteed to win, it wouldn't be called a bet. It would just be you just did the smart, logical thing and took the easy win that was sitting right in front of you. They also don't tell you about all the times this person also bet but didn't win. So they only tell you about the best that won. They don't tell you about the best that lost. So you often hear people talk about betting on themselves once they get some big success in their careers, as if they just had these big balls and they were just so smart to bet on themselves at the right time. But what they didn't tell you is that, number one, that bet was not guaranteed to win, and had they lost, they wouldn't be talking about it. And number 2, they bet before and didn't win. So they didn't tell you about that one. They just told you about the one time that won, so it makes them look like they're some type of genius. And to people who don't understand this concept on a logical or rational level, they'll hear it and think, oh, this person must be a genius, because look, they bet on themselves and they won. Okay, well, if there's some guaranteed win to bet and that you can win big, you should take that person to Vegas and make them win you a whole bunch of money, because they're wasting their talent betting on themselves on a football field or a basketball court. It takes a whole lot more effort and a lot more time to turn it over. You go to Vegas and do that in like 30 minutes. If it's that easy. Reality is not that easy. It's not that simple. And just because you bet does not mean you're going to win. So the challenge is you don't know if your risk is going to pan out. And again, that's the reason why it's called a risk, because it's not guaranteed. The people who risk big, when they win, they get paid big because they had the balls to try. I told you the 2 things you need as an entrepreneur are big balls and a strong stomach. Big balls because you got to be willing to take a risk that is not guaranteed to work, and a strong stomach because you have to go to sleep at night knowing that you took that risk that is not guaranteed to work. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to live that life? Those who never take a risk can only sit on the sideline and watch those who did. And if they end up losing, it validates your unwillingness to take a risk. And if they end up winning, then you feel bad, like, damn, I should have took a risk on that. And some people will be moved to actually get in the game. Some people will look at that and say, oh, well, you'll come up with some type of rationalization for why they're a bad person, i.e. what we're talking about here in this series, that, oh, you're just exploiting the people who work for you. No, mofo, I took a risk when nobody else was willing to take a risk. Now I got people working for me. I'm giving them jobs. I'm giving them jobs because I created an opportunity for people to work because I was willing to take a risk when you weren't. So don't say that I'm exploiting anybody. I'm giving opportunities is what I'm actually doing. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. All right, all of you have heard this before. Any of you who wants a bigger upside in your life and you want a bigger potential for return, you must engineer some moonshot opportunities for yourself. That means opportunities that, if they work, the payout will be so big that it overshadows all the other failures that may have come before it. That's what a moonshot is. But you have to manufacture these moonshots into your life. Many people play only small, never give themselves a chance to win big. Therefore, any win that they get is so small that it doesn't move the needle. Then they complain when people who did play big actually end up winning. You got to put yourself in a position to get successful, folks. You got to give yourself a chance to win. What it means to give yourself a chance to win is that you have to be willing to bet and play at a level that is commensurate with the outcomes that you want to achieve. Point number 6. Today's topic, once again, is we're answering the question, do companies exploit their employees? Number 6, your problem is not exploitation. Any of you listening to this right now, if you work at a company and you feel like the company might be exploiting you, or you've been listening to too much Bernie Sanders and AOC, your problem is not exploitation. Your problem is a lack of leverage. What does this mean? If you believe you're being taken advantage of by working at your work, it's not because there's anything wrong with your boss or the company that employs you. They are not evil. They are not bad. What's happening is you don't have any power in that situation, and you know that you don't have power in the situation. So therefore, instead of just admitting that, I never hear anybody say that, by the way. Instead, you rationalize it as, oh, they're exploiting me. They're doing something negative to me, because if you said I have no power and I know I have no power, then you're kind of putting the onus on yourself to do something about it. But as soon as you say your employer is exploiting you, now the onus is on them. All right, now they're the ones doing something wrong. Now they are the ones who need to adjust to accommodate you. And whoever has the responsibility has the ownership. Whoever has the ownership has the power. So who you want to give the power to them or to you? That's the question for you to answer. If you want to change the terms of engagement in any situation, you need skills that are hard to replace. You got to have or be something that is not easily replaceable. You need ownership of something that produces a result that people want. And when you need those options, and when you are those options, other people want you. Let me back up. When you own something that produces results, you now have options because other people want the thing that you're offering. And when people want what you're offering, you can tell them, here's what it's going to cost to get it, and they'll pay it, also known as sales. People who earn the most get to call the shots in life. Why? Because the people who have the most leverage, they are not the people who do the most complaining. So are you creating leverage or are you complaining? Usually you're not doing both at the same time. Sometimes you can create leverage by complaining if you complain strategically. But too much complaining without enough leverage, then, and not enough doing and not enough outcomes, people eventually see through your bullshit, and now you have nothing. So if you feel you're being underpaid, undervalued, overworked, or in some way disrespected, do not concern yourself with how unfair the situation is, because that's probably not your problem. What you need to do instead is figure out where the leverage is. Where is there some leverage so that I can get myself some? This is the question that you should be asking yourself. How can I get myself some leverage? Let's get the definition of the word leverage. It means to provide something or supplement. No, I don't like that one. They're using the word leverage too much in the definition. So leverage is the act or action of a lever or the mechanical advantage gained by it. No, this is not the right definition. The word leverage does not have good definitions. Let's see the word lever. Lever means an inducing or compelling force. That's pretty much what a lever is. An inducing or compelling force. Well, that's what leverage is. If you can make yourself or what you have into an inducing or compelling force that moves others to do things, now you have leverage. And it says a project piece by which a mechanism is operated or adjusted. Also not a very good definition. These definitions are not really that good at word leverage. They're using the word too often. It's not quite clear as I want it to be. But we'll deal with it one way or another. You got to figure out where can your 1 unit of effort produce 10 units of outcome. That's leverage. 1 unit of effort equals 10 units of outcome, also known as leverage. Figure out where the leverage is, get yourself some. Remember that business is just like life, and that you do not get what you deserve. You get what you accept, what you negotiate, and what you demand. That's the way it works. What you accept, what you negotiate, and what you demand. Those are the 3 levels of earning money. I did a whole episode on this. And if you want to be able to have negotiating power and you want to be able to demand and name your price, what you need to do is create leverage for yourself. Leverage is, what do you have that can produce an outcome disproportionate to the amount of effort you have to give to make it work. That's leverage. The more of that you have, the more power you get. Business owners have leverage. Why? Because they've created an opportunity. They can replace you as a worker more easily than you can replace them as the owner at that particular place. And because of that, they have leverage. And because of that, they'll tell you what to do. You got to do it. Why? Because you work there. This is how it works. All that said, everybody, let's recap today's class, which is part 2 of our 2-part mini-series. Are companies exploiting their workers? Number 4, do workers matter? Yes, they do. And they can be replaced more easily than the owner of the place that they work gets replaced. Again, example, Dr. Jerry Buss with the LA Lakers. He's passed away now, but a lot of players came and went while he was on the team the whole time. They scored all the points, grabbed all the rebounds, had all the slam dunks. He didn't do anything but collect money and write checks. Number 5, to remove the cap on your upside, you got to remove your downside. All right, if you want to win big, you got to put yourself in a position to possibly lose big. Number 6, your problem is not exploitation. Your problem is you lack leverage. And when you lack leverage, you get exploited. But the problem is not the exploitation. The problem is the lack of leverage. If you had leverage, there'd be no way for anybody to exploit you. Like, nobody exploited Dr. Jerry Buss. Why? Because he owned the team. He had leverage. So people might have tried, but you couldn't because he had all the leverage. So leverage for you is, where can your 1 unit of effort produce 10 units of output that is valuable and useful to someone other than yourself? The more you can do that, the more leverage you have, and the more you accumulate leverage, the less possible it is for anybody to exploit you in any way, shape, or form. You want to learn more about creating more leverage for yourself. You want to make yourself more powerful. You want to make yourself unexploitable, starting with the way that you think, your mindset, your presence, your energy, your aura, then leading into your actions, then leading into the outcomes of your business. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. DreAllDay.